We are headed to D&J to pick up the billet engine for the S10. We had a new head built with top feed injectors, and they went through the bottom end, and everything looked absolutely pristine. So I want to show you guys around the shop up there and hopefully give you guys a little bit of an idea of what all they did this go around, and a little bit of what all they do at D&J. So we're going to head up there, pick it up, and go back and start putting this thing together to go racing next weekend. Here we are with the executioner. Drew and the guys here at D&J just went through it, and well, we did top feed head. There's a couple things that we'll go over with this. The reason we did top feeds is because we were having the all aluminum will grow so much that the feed tube to injector will not seal up if the engine gets too hot. So a couple times we got burned down on the tree, and at the end of that pass we lost rail pressure between rounds. We had to retorque the head. So that was kind of on our agenda all along, and didn't have time to do it the first time. So this winter was kind of a second project, was building a top feed system so the injectors are fed from the top and we don't have a problem with rail pressure when the thing gets hot.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to have Drew tell you guys a little bit what he saw in the bottom end after we put 99 passes on it last year and beat the balls off of it, and see if you're happy with what you saw.
I was really happy with what we saw. The bottom end looked really good. I mean, we could still see the measure marks from when we measure the bearings. All the wrist pin bushings looked great. Pistons looked pretty good for what they went through. Kind of expected to have to do new pistons by the end of all of that. Very happy with it. The bed plate all stayed in. Nothing's moving around. No fretting from movement or anything. So.
Well, I know that was one of the big things when we split the engine on the dyno, 2018. We were just looking at the material in the main webbing, and there's just not enough material in the fat cast block when we make that big torque number, that over time it fatigues and eventually just peeled itself forward. And that's why this steel bed plate and the 6-bolt mains, I mean, there's what, 1,000,000 pounds of clamping force?
1,000,000 pounds of clamp force. And the biggest thing was we could not improve on the factory block with our deck plate setup, or any setup really, and in the cam bore area basically, or right underneath the bores of the block. So that's why we went outboard with the block and wider, and it's all gusseted and everything, was to get strength through that area where we had a failure. It's just really not a good way to do that with the stock casting. We could have done an aftermarket casting. Most of the aftermarket casting really hasn't addressed that issue.
Right.
And then it's just heavy again with the aftermarket stuff.
Right.
So it just wasn't feasible for us for that.
Yeah, we're tickled to be able to put that kind of passes on it. If you get 99 passes on an engine, I mean, we were running anywhere from 2,200 horsepower to 3,000 horsepower last year, and to get to the end of the season and everything still looks literally great down underneath. Like, we've never had an engine look that good in the bottom end after a season. Like the cast block, they just move around enough that when you're making 3,000 plus foot-pounds of torque, there's movement in it. And with that bed plate in there, it holds it still. There's more material in here. We don't have to worry about splitting it. So we are excited to get this thing back out into the S10 and go put some beating on it, and maybe we can improve on our current times this year. We're headed to Georgia next week, so we've got to get back home and get some more work done so that we can go racing. But before we leave, I wanted to maybe have Drew show us around the shop a little bit, because Drew does a lot more than just badass engines that's top of the line. He does also a head for your daily driver work truck. He'll do a head for your tow truck, a hot shot truck. They'll rebuild a stock Cummins engine, and I wanted to just show you guys kind of what all they can do here at D&J. So this is what, an HP reman?
This is our HP reman Extreme engine. So what makes this an HP reman Extreme above and beyond the regular HP reman is we do 9/16 head studs. Okay. Regular HP reman gets just factory bolts. We can do a 625 upgrade or something like that on those, but 12mm main studs in these also. And then we do like a tow performance camshaft, stage 1 cylinder head on the HP reman Extremes. So that gives the customer a good all-around better airflow. Drop EGTs for the same horsepower range, so a guy can use this for his daily driver tow truck. We've seen the stage 1 heads make 15, 20 horsepower, something like that, with the same fuel quantities. So theory should get better fuel economy with something like that too. So that's one of the packages that we do.
And all of these engines, like you'll basically, it gets new oil pump, new oil cooler.
Yep, new oil pump, new oil cooler. We do all our machine work in-house, so we can quality control everything in-house. It comes with our big seats on the stage 1 heads, thread-in soft plugs under the valve cover, 7/16 push rods in this. So there's a lot of value in this engine. It's a really well priced. It's $10,500 for the long block with everything.
Right.
It'll come from us with an oil pan on it, front cover on it.
And we pressure check.
We pressure check the crankcase. We pressure check the cooling system. So that way when it leaves, we don't have to worry about leaks and warranty leaks and deal with that stuff. Customers can throw it in and go. We had guys call like, I got an oil leak in the back, and like, it's your cam plug.
Right.
O-ring, and they're like, well, it's your cam plug O-ring.
Yeah, well, we've been back and forth with Drew since 2012, and I know back in the day that was always a battle. You try, put something together. How do you test it until it's in and running? So they've implemented systems where they can pressurize the crankcase, they can pressurize the head, they can make sure all that leaks, and we've had great success putting these engines in trucks. And they go in, they run great, and everything is new. Like Cummins pistons, you've got.
Yeah, we use genuine Cummins pistons. A lot of people are using aftermarket stuff. Yeah. We've just seen better life out of the genuine Cummins piston and ring pack, with all the performance stuff too. So that's what we've stuck with. We've actually been able to run tighter bore clearance on the factory Cummins piston than we do with the mall stuff or any of the aftermarket stuff. So
there's a lot of things that play a part in making an engine like this set up to go another 500,000 miles. And when you increase horsepower, obviously you have to have a little better parts. You got to keep the head on. You got to keep your bigger seats, keep the seats from falling out. And overall, it's a great package. So depending on whether you've got a 500 horsepower truck that you just play with on the farm, or whether you're just doing long haul hot shot driving, or you're taking your toy hauler to the campground on the weekends, they have levels from completely stock rebuilds all the way up to like you see with what we're doing with the racing setups, with the deck plate setup. So
we sell a lot of these, the hot shot trucks, just because we can drop EGTs for the same horsepower. The guys they're pushing those trucks hard, even stock, and a lot of, this engine's 410 cubic inches. It's not made to be a semi, and they want to run it like a semi. They want 45,000 pounds behind them, and you can't add a ton of horsepower to something like that that's going out and work every day. So this helps alleviate all the issues. Biggest things we see in those engines is valve seats falling out. So we take care of that, and then the added airflow helps drop temperatures throughout its life, and it'll last a lot longer that way.
Well, cool. Is there anything else you all want to show us?
We can go over and see how the guys make connecting rods. We can see the cylinder head department. Yep.
Let's do that. So what, this is where we make rods, right?
Yeah, this is our DMG Mori. This is where we make connecting rods. This is our first operations of connecting rods before they go out to heat treat and out to shop peen. I don't have any currently running on after heat treat and shop peen to show you guys, but they go on a pallet like this. This is how our connecting rods start. So they start out on a pallet like that. They get, the first operation ends up looking like this. It's like half of a connecting rod. Goes on to this fixture on this side, and then once it gets machined again, it comes off and goes on to one more operation here. And then they come off finished like this to go to heat treat and shop peen.
And those are pressure lubed, so you
pressure lubed wrist pins.
So pressure lubes through there. That's something that a lot of connecting rods don't have.
1/2-inch rod bolts. It's an X-beam design, so it's very light for the weight, or very lightweight for the strength. And we use a high impact tool steel, so it's a tool steel that's designed for mold making and pounding the molds all the time, which is exactly what a connecting rod's going through. So they're ovaled to start with. They go off to heat treat. We end up cutting the cap off, sizing the cap. We got to push the bushing in. There's like 8 operations that have to be done after they come back from heat treat. So a lot of time goes into our connecting rods.
Simple. Yes. Overall, we've run that. Got the 1-inch longer rod than the quad cab, and we've never had a problem with those. It's just been solid rods.
A lot of our competitors have trouble with wrist pin bushings. So we've got no wrist pin bushing issues. The engine, the billet engine came apart It looked just like a brand new wrist pin
bushing. You can still see the hone marks on the wrist pin.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Wrist pin still spun in there like nothing. So
cool.
That's the same thing that you're getting when you buy like our Performance Series or Street Performance. It's the same connecting rods.
You buy a billet rod from D&J, you're getting one of theirs.
You're getting one of theirs, and it's just like what's in the billet engine.
And you also use this machine for your billet valve covers, right?
This runs valve covers, tons of valve covers.
Yep. Good deal. Let's check out the heads.
Yep.
Okay, this is where you build heads. Why don't you tell us a little bit what goes on here?
Yeah, this is where we build heads. We have one machine on the other side that does surface scene, seats, and guides. It's all CNC done for that stuff. We have a CNC new one, seat and guide machine, so it's the best seat and guide machine in the world, really. You can run an infinite profile as far as seats go, so anything that we do, even on our HP reman cylinder heads, gets the same valve job as like our stage 2 heads do. So you get a really high performance valve job with everything. Seats, seats and guides, all of our heads now come with thread and soft plugs. We used to have it as an option.
And seats and valve job is a huge deal. We've had one truck that we pulled off the dyno, pulled the head off, brought it up here, and just had a valve job done, put it back on, and made 110 horsepower. And that was, when we pulled it apart, you could see the valves weren't sealing up good with the seat.
That was at a different machine shop beforehand. Right. He'd already had a head done, and
they didn't get the valve job right. So having the correct tooling and their good seats and valve jobs.
A lot of detail in that, and like what he's doing there is pressure check every cylinder basically, so it's pressure checking all the valves before we put it together. We pressure check the cooling system at the end. 2 guys have to sign off for inspections to make sure that they're clean. All the holes have good threads in them before they leave. Sometimes we have to repair some holes, but there's 2 guys that inspect everything. So you have 3 sets of eyes, the guys assembling it and 2 others that are making sure every hole's right and all that stuff as far as threads go.
This machine is where they make where they're turning valves, and they also make turn a lot of their piston stuff over here. And then if you look on down here, that's where they have more operations where you do what? Front covers?
Front covers, billet intake manifolds, a lot of our miscellaneous components, like a lot of the billet head stuff got done over here for pre-axis work. We do our second operation of rods over here too.
Here you can see part of a FSR piston. So this is a forged steel ringland. So they forged this with a steel ringland in it, then they machine it into a piston. So that's a half of a piston there. Here you can see what they make their rod bushings out of. So it starts with a bunch of raw material. It takes a lot of machine work to get the final product produced. So a lot of people don't realize how many different operations there are to make a rod. You know, a lot of people see a CNC machine, they think you just chuck a piece of billet steel, and once you have the program, you just push a button and it whittles out your part. And it's way more advanced than that, because you have so many different operations. When you have to press in the bushing, then you have to bore the bushing, you have to size it perfectly, you have to get them all balanced as a set. I mean, there's a lot of processes to it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for showing us around. I mean, there's still a good bit of stuff that we didn't cover, like where you do your cam bushings, line hone, your centroid, where you make a lot of your porting for your head and stuff like that. But you get the idea. They have all the equipment to do everything in-house, and when they have a problem, they've got the machines to do it. That's why at Firepunk we used to assemble engines back in the day, and when I put it together and you take a measurement and something's not right, then you got to take it back apart, go back to the machine shop, have it machined, come back, clean it back up again, and it's a hassle. And that's why we've just started buying engines assembled from D&J. It works out great for us. They come pressure checked, they're ready to roll, and I let him do what he's good at, and I'll do what I'm good at.
Yep.